Okay, so I'm recording. So this is the second of these talk aloud or speak aloud sessions that I'm doing. The first one that I did was on the Buchla 200E, and now I've decided to do one on this LB Designs EuroSerge. I don't have any particular thoughts about how I'm going to proceed, but again, it's going to be another hour-long session, hour or so, to try and, just to document the way that I patch certain things. So the only thing that I thought before I started was one thing I haven't done for a while, and this is like pretty classic for me. One thing I haven't done for a while is to play with oscillator sync. And now oscillator sync is something that you can do on the individual oscillators, but I like kind of patching up my own oscillator sync in the Surge. This is not something that you can do in the Buchla. So I'm going to give this a go, just to start with, just to get a sound. So first things first, I'm going to use one of the voltage controlled slopes. I'm going to pass it straight to a channel of the mixer, taking the AC output. I'll turn the gain down, just so I can hear that oscillating. So as soon as I hear that, the first thing I think is that I want to get as close to a triangle wave as possible. So that's going to require getting the rise and fall times of this slope to be at the same position. Okay, cool. So that's good. Now to sync this, we've got an input in the slope being something that can also be a slew. So I'm going to I could use another slope, but I'm going to keep my slopes open for doing envelopes and stuff, I think. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab another VCO. I'm going to take this VCO2 because I know that it's got a pulse output, and I found that pulses are pretty good for doing sync. So let's first, just so I can get a sense of the frequency of the thing that's synchronizing stuff, I'm just going to whack in, it's not long enough. Just going to whack in the actual sync source so that I can hear it. So I'll take a sine wave. So that's going to be my sync source, and I've got the pulse output going into the voltage controlled slope. Okay, cool. So immediately I'm hearing that sync source synchronizing my triangle wave. It's become dirtier. If I blend that with the original, we get a fatter sound. And I'm just going to play with the rise and fall times of this and see if I can get those rippling harmonics. Okay, so listening to that, that's interesting. So it's quite a bit higher than the sync source. I'm just going to see what happens. I have this inkling that if the synchronized source, so being this slope, is the same pitch, the same frequency or lower than the synchronized source, then any movement that we do below that in frequency is going to become subharmonics, I think. You can hear it jumping. Okay, so we seem to get that really classic syncy sound as we increase the frequency. Yeah, and it gets really gnarly. If I were to change the sync pitch, now that's interesting. I don't usually do that. That's the I'm changing the synchronizing oscillator's frequency rather than rippling the harmonics by changing the synchronized oscillator's frequency. And so we get this kind of almost like a throaty kind of sound. Okay, so that's interesting. So I've got two controls here. I mean, obviously I could also use the rise control, but here I was just playing with the fall as well as the chorus. And I was being, just as I was playing with it, it felt natural to be a bit more gestural with the fall. And to be slower with the left hand. So I wonder if, just as a model of something automated, I wonder if I could do something automated that's kind of in a similar vein. So one thing that I thought, just thinking about this fall time, so if I make sure that fall time going faster, I think it's in the positive. So if I take the smooth output of this RVG, the random voltage generator, do the Gaussian, because it should be tighter. I think that's more bipolar, but we'll see. So if we just leave the VCO2, which is the sinking oscillator, as is, and we VC the rise, it's probably going to be wild, but well, let's start at 0. It's too fast. There we go. No, we want Gaussian because it's tighter. This is not something I do with the smooth side and just use it as a raw like CB source. But now the other thing that I was doing is just getting something super slow going on the VCO2. So I guess I could just use it like an LFO. So in that case, I might just grab another slope, maybe one from the end. Just a slow slope. And then I wouldn't put it in the volt per octave, I just put it in the log FM. And I'll put it in with 0 on the input attenuator. Just open that up. Now if I open this up, okay, I like that throaty sound. What I've done is I pulled out the nonlinear attenuator pot so that I can make the input CV exponential or logarithmic. So I'm just dialing up how much this slope is affecting the syncing oscillator. I like that kind of tighter. So that's pretty cool. There's a few things that I'm thinking though, just as I'm listening to it, like obviously I could have some dynamic control over it. I'm just doing this manually at the moment. I wonder if I related the as we get higher in pitch we get louder. Let's slow this down. No, I don't, it's too close to it. I would probably prefer something that's a bit more asynchronous. So what's happening is you're already hearing this up and down with the sync pitch. And using the same CV to change the gain is not really what I want. I like the idea of having something kind of asynchronous. So that's cool. I mean, the cool thing is about that, it's a really rich source, so it's something that is going to stand out. It also allows me to kind of tap it to do something else. I just realized that just as I'm talking, I'm just zeroing out this sequence. It's not something I always do, but just doing that. Okay, so what could I do then? So I immediately the thought is, okay, grab another slope and then play with the volume that way. But I'm thinking maybe what I could do, like immediately, is tap that sound. And when I say tap that sound, like take it out and put it somewhere else. It could be putting it into a phaser or something. And then if I were to just play it back as, like with the mix of the phaser, just playing with this, we've got CB control or LFO. I think I'm going to use CB control. I'm just going to sweep this phaser manually. So it's just turning on and off the LFO control. Okay, cool. So this is, if we're going to have this kind of going, maybe coming in and out, and I want to tap that and grab some gnarly sounds from the phaser, then it might be nice to use, say, the same randomized source, but maybe take the timing output and not the timing output, no, the stepped output, and then use that to like change the frequency of the phaser. At the moment, the phaser is on CB input, and I can play with the depth. So if I bring that up, so I'm taking the mix output, which I think is just the 180. Whoa, high feedback already. And this is mixing between 1080 degrees and 720 degrees, but if I give it more feedback. Alright, so let's bring in the depth of this modulation. Okay, that's all right. It's not great. I wonder if we gave it a bit of grit. So what I'm going to do here now is the mix is going to come out just as usual. Its input is going to be, in this system I love using this matrix mixer, so I'm going to play with feedback. Didn't take me long. Play with feedback into the phaser and then out. So instead of going straight into the phaser, I'm going to go in here, open that straight up. So we've got like for like on the unipolar. So these are attenuators rather than attenuverters. Straight into the phaser. So we should have just the same as we had before. Okay, but now if I take anything else, like, I don't know, another phaser channel, and then mix it back in to the phaser. And that's a bit gnarly. It's a bit high frequency. Okay, so I'm trying to find interesting spots of feedback. I've got the synced oscillator going into the first input of the matrix mixer. It's going straight out. This channel of the mixer is coming straight out to the phaser, and then I'm taking one of the outputs of the phaser and I'm feeding it back on itself by changing the offset, so the frequency, the base frequency of the phaser. What I've got is I'm dirtying it up, and it seems to add more low frequencies actually. Okay, that's right. There's the original. What if I were to play with this, the speed of the... I'm just wondering how I can get something that is usable. So now what I'm doing is I'm changing. Okay, that's cool. What I really like is that like crackly ridiculousness at the top of the range. So I might even... So I've got quite a different... Just getting a sense of how these work together. But coming back to that crackly ridiculousness... We're hearing like this sub harmonic from the phaser because we've got feedback and we're doing something weird with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that output of the phaser into a VCF. I'll use the 73 VCF, doesn't really matter at this stage. I'm going to start with bandpass, and this is going to be something that I'm going to want to probably pan. So I'm going to assume that I'm going to do some interesting dynamic effects with this. So I'm going to put it in a separate VCA rather than controlling the VCA in the dual panner. I might not need this original one because we've kind of evolved past there, but might be interesting. Sorry, that's bandpass to input, and then I'm going to take the output and put that in there. And so if I open that up, this is a bandpass filtered version of that original. Hang on, what's going on? Oh yeah, should open up the VCA. Okay, let's do some panning. Or maybe just, actually, let's do high frequency. Cool. Gonna do this guy. We might do a kind of like jittery thing. I'm gonna grab, I haven't used the sequencer yet, so I'm thinking about what we're doing next as I do this, but I'll grab this timing output. No, I won't grab the timing. I'll grab the smooth output, and I'll VC control this envelope. So we got the same envelope that's going to control the volume of this new filtered source. I quite like that. Okay. I could just directly pan that, I think, because we're in the center, we're in Gaussian mode, and Gaussian mode means generally that these DC outputs become bipolar, I think. So if I put it into the pan, it's not very wide. Maybe I want the step side. Well, I want wider panning than that. I don't know why, but just playing with it now, just having a listen. Bringing back in that original source, just so different to the way it was when I started. What if I brought some noise into that feedback path? Ooh, that's interesting. Okay, so what have I done here? I've got the transient generator, or the slope here that was originally just going up and down in a triangle fashion to change the synchronizing oscillator. I now decided to get amplitude, audio rate frequency modulation of that. So we've got audio rate frequency modulation of the synchronizing oscillator. So instead of it going up and down or pinging or whatever it is it was doing, I've now got the synchronizing oscillator, which then syncs my original slope, having this really interesting frequency modulated but like throaty thing going on, because I've still got the modulation of the synced oscillator. It's a classic sync sound still, but what's interesting about that is that that second source, because it's going through the phaser and I'm working with feedback, you get this weird, you still got this subharmonic. Those low resonant pitches are actually from the phaser itself. So you can hear it peeking through there. Bring in the original. It's pretty harsh. And then I've got this filtered jittery thing in the sides. Okay, that is like super cool, and it's not something that I expected at all. Yeah, I mean, just to kind of track back, like, I was interested in sync. That was a starting point. And then you obviously need a synchronizing oscillator to sync something, so I've chosen the VCO2. And then as I had the sync going, I just started like manually moving the synchronized oscillator, its fall time, the slope rather, and that was giving me the rippling harmonics I wanted. But I also started moving the actual bass frequency of the synchronizing oscillator, the VCO2, and I found that, oh, you get this kind of throaty thing as you're both moving the sync harmonics and the thing. So then, you know, patching up a slope to do that slowly was interesting. We had something fast doing the rippling harmonics, and then something slow from a slope working with the VCO2. But actually what I've done now is I'm frequency modulating VCO2. And so because of that, we get this extra sense of sync. So hearing this as a tone, and this is a tone, and this is giving us the harmonics. But I wonder what happens if I... Oh, what? What? Unbelievable. Okay, right, far out. So this this transient generator is going into the log FM of my VCO2, which is my sync source. But because it's going so fast, it's frequency modulating, and as I decrease that, the depth of the modulation, of the frequency modulation, you get it's obviously going to change. It's obviously going to change the bass pitch, but you've still got that tone in there somewhere. So obviously this is, I mean, not obviously, but obviously to me, this becomes a clear point where I need to sequence something. So I've got this sequencer down here. Just thinking about this, just because I'm trying to be quite integrated with the way I'm doing things, I'm using the random voltage generator. But a couple of times I've threatened to use the timing output, but I haven't used it. I mean, the obvious thing that I could do is I could just sequence the sequencer using the time, and that could be cool. So remembering that this source, that timing output is basically showing us when the stepped comes out. Well, it's because it's coupled to it. It's a coupler inside. So basically that means that this sequence is kind of moving at the same rate. It seems to be a little bit slower as that. But what I want to do is I want to filter that down, not audio filter, but control rate filter that down before I sequence, so that I can have a slower change to this. Oh, but how do I do that? Oh, okay, yeah. So to backtrack, I've got this thing going on. I was moving the modulation depth. Of the VCO2, but the only way to adjust this automatically, so using some kind of CB, is I have to go through another VCA, so that I can basically attenuate this modulating transient generator. So I'm going to have to take that now. So I'm going to take the transient generator. It's DC. Should we call it DC? I mean, it's going at audio rate, but it's a DC output, so that's fine. Okay, DC. And then its output, which says that it's AC, but let's see what goes on, into the log input. And if I open this up, so at the moment, I'm not hearing any of it. Open it. See what if it changes. Yeah. So it's interesting. It's kind of doing the same thing that I thought it would by moving this, but this must be something to do with the voltages in this particular VCA. If I want to be able to control it, I have to go through a VCA. Yeah, it's not quite at the same level, but I guess I can just kind of tune it up. That's fine. All right. So let's do this. Let's use one of the rows here of this sequencer. And should I use all 8 steps? I mean, yeah, okay. And we'll go into the log input of this, and we'll set a bass frequency. And let's just manually move one of these pots. So now this pot, because it's going through this VCA, is a stand-in, I guess, from what I was doing originally. So that was manual. In order to scale it automatically, I have to go through a VCA. I was playing with the pot here, which is the VCA's offset, but now I've got some control voltage. I can just like manually sweep this, and it'll stand in for this original pot. That's my idea. Anyway. What? Okay, so that goes wilder than I thought it would. It goes heaps wilder. Alright, okay, I'm just dialing in and finding these zones. So let's do this. So coming back to what I was saying before about the timing, is I want to filter that down in terms of CV. So I'm going to take the timing output, which is just kind of pulsing away, and I'm going to put this in the n divide by n comp. So I have to go into the positive input of the comparator, because then that feeds through down here into the n comp, and then so I'm going to take the n comp. So if I've got that at 1, it should just spit out the same pulsation. Oh, it stops. It's at 0. There we go. So that's basically what we had before. But now I want to divide that down. So actually it's not changing all the time. So that should be, yeah, that's better. So I'm basically like doing some kind of a clock division here of the original timing pulse. So if I bring this back, I don't have any values yet. Let's just do 4 values for now. What? Okay, so I brought this one in just out of interest. Let's have a listen to this. Playing with the offset on the voltage controlled slope to try and find a space that I like. I mean, far out, the harmonics that are coming out of these, particularly the top ones, it's almost like there's like a brassy, like cymbal-like sound. I think I actually prefer the values higher. So I'm going to keep these pretty high so we get this. Okay, that's interesting. So this is still the first source. Okay, so this is pretty brutal. Like, we've got some pretty gnarly stuff going on. So I'm just Just thinking maybe if I tamed this phaser feedback a little bit to match it, or to complement it, but without being too different, too crazy. Remembering there's white noise in there now. Oh, that's nice. Don't really want it to squeal. This one will squeal. I'm just playing with the mix. That's interesting. Okay, so one thing that I sometimes try and do once I've got something that's kind of set up like that, is I just play with some pretty like brutal transitions, some abrupt transitions. One of those abrupt transitions that I just found then was that this matrix mixer, which is feeding back the phaser back to itself. So I've got the slope going in, going straight to the phaser, and then the phaser going back to itself. I've also got this white noise here, and at the moment I've got it down, right? So I'm just going to bring back so we don't hear the original sound. We just got the phased version and then the filtered phased version that's panning. So we got this. Already a super interesting sound. But because I don't have the white noise in, this is on unipolar. In terms of these knobs, unipolar means that each one of these knobs in the matrix mixer is acting as an attenuator, not an attenuverter. So when this knob is fully counterclockwise, that means that there's no noise in there. But if I switch this to bipolar, what it immediately will do is it'll see this noise pot and say, well, that's no longer 0 volts. It's actually minus, I don't know the exact value, but I guess it's minus 2.5 because it's 5 volts peak to peak, which means you're taking the white noise and you're inverting its phase. And so as a result, I can actually use this unipolar bipolar switch to go from 0 noise to full noise and just kind of flick back and forth. Yeah. It'll also change the scaling of this feedback. So rather than being, say, I don't know, 2 volts or 1.5 volts, it'll be minus 0.5 or something. Love putting a phaser in the mix like this. Just bringing the original in. Okay. So I'm going to take a break, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, let that marinate in my head because it's a really complex sound. And then I'm going to come back and finish the video, maybe another 15 minutes. Okay, I'm back. Right, so one thing that I'm going to do now, I've got this sound. I've got this sound. I've got this sound. And then I can put the noise in and out. And then I can put the noise in and out of this one. That's cool. I've only got one channel left in terms of panning channels, but that's okay. So what I'm thinking about doing, well, in terms of mixer channels, what I'm thinking about doing is using something I've already got to modulate like a pure tone. So I've got two more oscillators over here that I haven't used. I've also got a voltage control slope. I've got this up here. There's the smooth and stepped. There's so much stuff that I can do. But I'm thinking about having something kind of pure. So I'm going to grab the AC output of this VCO, which if I just bring it in, just sounds like this. Well, that's really low. Put it in the center. So it's not quite a sine. But one thing that I thought when I was having my break is that I have because I'm using the divide by n comp, I'm using the divide by n, which is giving me a pulse out. So I'm basically filtering down the timing pulses from the RVG, random voltage generator, and then I'm maybe every 4 pulses or something like that, I'm sequencing the sequence programmer. But I also have this stepped output, which is a DC kind of control voltage which kind of goes up. I think people often use it in whole tone steps if you're putting it into a voltage, into a volt per octave input. So if I did that just for argument's sake, I should get on every timing pulse a rising whole tone scale at the speed of the timing. Now I'm not thinking about using a whole tone scale, but I think that's what's happening. Okay, cool. So what I might actually do is put it into the log so that I'll have even spaced pitches that rise. But then microtonal. Which is kind of interesting. And another thing that I can do, because it's also got a log and a linear FM input, is I'm going to use the 1 volt per octave, and then at the start of each one of those, so we can actually see that for each step pulse, that's the start of the rising arpeggiation. So I can use this second output here to scale the start of each one. So I think that's interesting, just oscillating between octaves. Let's have a listen how that sounds with everything else. I'm going to hear that. Okay, that's cool. I like it. Well, I'll probably have to tune it. But what I'm thinking here is I'm going into this mixer channel, and this mixer channel has gain CV, but I don't have like overall control over the like an offset of the gain. If I've got some kind of amplitude control. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it into another VCA. I don't have a standard VCA anymore, but what I do have is the smooth and step generator, which can like act as a faux LPG in Buchla style. So I'm going to put this into the input here. And then let me just double check the rate. Yeah, okay, so when it's on the left, it's at its fastest rate. And then this CV pot, when it's down here, there's no CV, and then it's full CV. So what I'll do is I'll take it so that if I take it directly into this channel, smooth out, as I open that, I get, oh, there's some interesting timbral variation. Could also be a place for the VC multiplier, and maybe even the resonant equalizer to change the timbre a little bit. That's cool. I've got another voltage controlled slope here. I'm just going to cycle that. Let's just hear what it is if I use the DC output, and then I... Yeah, there's your LPG type sound. I don't want it to have any offset. Okay, let's change that speed of the pinging. So we'll do the fall, and I'll take this from the third row here. Oh no, it's the other way around. That's really quite quiet. That's probably better. There we go. I wonder if I use the gain. This is getting a bit ridiculous, but oh no. Oh, okay. I mean, this. I'm just a bit roundabout, but okay. So what I'm using is this voltage controlled slope to ping, because it's opening up that smooth and step generator. But if I used a VC voltage processor, I could scale how much of it. Oh, is that possible? No, that's a bad idea. I was just thinking that I could scale it outside of this gain pot, so that I could have overall amplitude control. So you've got the amplitude control of the pings, and then you've also got a amplitude control that goes up and down with something else. But I might need to use, maybe I'll put it in the yeah, let's put it in the ring modulator. So I'll use the ring modulator as a VCA. Before we get into here, I mean, this is getting a bit wild, but it's patch programmability. Hang on, so X. Is that what I want? Okay, if I put it on X, sorry, if I put it in Y, and then if I give it an offset, just for shits and giggles, from the voltage processor into VCY. Will that bring that up? Kind of. It's really weird. Why is it? Oh, it's changing the slope of it. It's probably not what I want then. Just trying to find a VCA that's going to work. Maybe this is just a futile exercise. Okay, I think it probably is for now. Okay, so let's just grab this. We'll ping it like we were doing before. That's fine. But I'll use some other CV source, and maybe actually I'll use the smooth CV source, which I've only used for one thing, and I'll use that for gain control. There we go. Okay, cool. That's good. Now I want some panning. I don't have any slopes left. But what I can do is I can use this ES VCO, and I can take its AC output. It doesn't go low enough. That's fast panning. It's bipolar, so that's good, but it doesn't go slow enough for me to get that panning down to a level that I want it. So what I can do is I can give it an offset in the log FM. That's the other way around, sorry. There we go. Tune that so it's really... centered. There we go. I don't actually mind that. It's really interesting. If I bring that down. Oh, good, good, good. So it's got some... Alright, so let's explain this source. We have an ES VCO. That VCO is receiving a rising, let's call it a whole tone arpeggiation through the divide by N. That divide by N is the thing that I'm using, it's the divide by N. I'm using the pulse out of that to trigger new stages on this 4-step sequence. But then I'm also taking the stepped out, which is giving us the whole tone thing. It's not whole tone because I've scaled it, so it's a microtonal, but they're equidistant intervals. So that's cool. I'm then taking that, after mucking around with where it was going to go VCA-wise, I've decided to use the smooth side as my VCA. I've tuned where the offset is, and then I've got full CV control over that. I've then got a voltage controlled slope that I'm using as as a ping. So I'm pinging the smooth side so that I get this kind of LPG thing going on. I'm changing the speed of that pinging from the third row of the sequence programmer. So basically this is a new source that's not being used for anything else, and that source is changing that speed. Then I thought, okay, I want some panning. I experimented with using the ES VCO as my panning source. I know that as a VCO it doesn't go low enough to have slow panning. So I've given it a negative offset to make it slow, but in fact I probably don't need that negative offset because I found, and let's take it out actually, that I actually quite like that fast panning. So now we've got amplitude modulation in the panning domain. I'm going to bring that down. So it's back where it is. So it's quite fast panning. And so that gives us that really interesting stereo sound, which is quite different to this stereo sound. So this one's more, you can really track the panning position of this as you're listening to it. The other thing I didn't mention is I've also got some volume control of that mixer channel for this pinged source, and that volume control is the smooth side of the random voltage generator, and so it's just giving this kind of these waves that come up and down. Which is kind of cool. And we're kind of getting there. I just wonder if, like, tonally that works with the original. It does. That's all right. Cool. It's good. It's good. Yeah. So it's not fully tuned. Another thing I thought, the interesting thing about using the smooth side of the smooth step generator for amplitude control is that there is some timbre variation, but it did make me think as I heard that, actually, wouldn't it be cool to have some other timbre variation? So I said that I wanted something pure, but already we've got some harmonics in it, just by virtue of the fact that we've had to go through a VCA that's not a VCA, or can be used as one. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to see what I can create by using this VC multiplier. So that's a wave folder. So with it right down, there'll still be a little bit of extra harmonics, but it won't be as noticeable. And then I'll see what happens when I bring this up. Oh yeah. That's cool. All right, one last trick. Okay, so instead of putting the smooth side of this, so the output of the ping directly into VC multiplier, let's put it into the final input of my matrix mixer. And just so I don't get confused, so I put it in this final one. I'm not going to use it in the original, but you could always do that. Can I do this? Probably not. I need some other way of mixing. Let's do it over here. I know you're not supposed to use a voltage processor as an audio mixer, but like, worse things have happened. So let's take this and go straight into there. So we should have, yeah. So I'm using this CV processor as a voltage controlled mixer. So not a voltage controlled mixer, but as a mixer, so that I can get some feedback going. It's a bit silly. One thing that I need to be aware of is not to give it a DC offset. So I'm just going to keep this offset right at 0. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the output of the VC multiplier itself and put it back in, and then see what happens when I give it feedback. Nothing at the moment. Oh, there we go. Yes. What? Okay, so obviously now I've been playing with process 2 input, which is my feedback to the voltage multiplier. But I'd like some kind of automatic control over that. It's not a CV control, so I have to find a way of doing that. The way I would do that would be to go back to the ring modulator as my source. Let's see what I can do with this. So if I take the Y input from here, and then I go the output here, and I just make that full. There shouldn't be any feedback. But as I open up the Y, no. Yeah, so the Y input needs some voltage so that I can scale the Y input. So if I have that up there, surely then I'm VCing feedback for this source. Yes. Yes. Okay, now I'm changing, rather than pinging, I'm giving there some rise. Okay, cool. So it's not actually, why is that all to the right now? Oh, that's okay. Okay, so it's not actually, I'm not going to use this offset, I'm going to use some other value. Maybe let's go from, we're gonna do a completely new random source. That random source is going to come from the stepped out. It's going to go into the VCY. That stepped out is going to come, I'm going to sample it at the same rate as my sequence. So you're going to get a new input, a new random input every time. The input is going to be from the sample hold random. And so what I want that to be the right speed. Is that correct? There we go. There we go. Do I like that more? Let's have a listen with the rest of it. There we go. Okay, so whilst I was doing that without talking, what I've done is I've decided that given I've got another input into the voltage processor over here, which I'm using in a non-standard way as an audio mixer. I guess it's the same with this CV mixer, matrix mixer. What I'm doing is I've put in an output of the matrix mixer, which, as we all know, as I know, is taking the phaser output, the another input of the phaser, because I was using it for feedback, plus white noise. And then, so if I'm hearing this output 2 is not sending anything because it's in unipolar mode. Its output is going to a fully open channel of this CV mixer, and then when I switch it to bipolar, all 3 of these will get sent to this source as well. So if I just want the white noise to be sent, oh no, I can't do that. Oh yeah. So I can, just like I'm doing with this source, adding white noise where I want to, I can send all of those sources phased inversed to this panning thing. So what started off as something that was going to be I guess a whole tone arpeggiation, which was, I said I wanted something pure. It was kind of pinging. I had this jittery thing going on, but it was pure microtonal incremental arpeggiations going on. As I was playing with it, I realized, I actually want some dirt in that. There's some dirt given that I was forced to use the smooth side for my VCA duties. I was like, there's actually some harmonics in there because of the way that this responds to CV and audio. I've got something dedicated that gives me more harmonics, so I used the VC multiplier. And then just kind of dialed that in. As I did that, I thought, actually what would be really nice is to have some feedback so that I get even more harmonics. If I'm going down this road, I should just kind of play with that. And I've given that dynamic control by using the ring modulator again as a VCA. And playing with that, it seemed a shame to have such a complex, brittle kind of harmonic feedback source, even though it is more melodic than everything else, to have that be pinged. So instead of pinging it, I've opened up the envelope, so I've got this kind of ebb and flow. So we've kind of gone back to the ebb and flow that I had originally with this synced source. So this is the original sync source. And here's the phased version of it. Filtered, panned, jittery version. Ha! So that's probably enough. In terms of performance with this, there's the obvious kind of like sitting above it and kind of piloting it by just opening up. I've basically got 4 sounds here, all derived, well, the first 3 derived from the one source, which is a synchronized oscillator with the sync source actually being frequency modulated. And then I've got this jittery source, so I can kind of just like mix and bring things in as I've been testing it. Then I also have a way of like having hard cuts between different materials, and that's using the unipolar to bipolar switches. So yeah, I'll record something out of this. It's chaotic, but it's also something that's like, so all of the sources are so complex and kind of congealed. There's no obvious way to kind of affect everything with one knob or performatively. I mean, I got like, presumably one thing that you could do is you could just, because this envelope generator is driving everything. Originally it was kind of going up and down. Now it's providing frequency modulation. You could play with that, the speed of that, and that would change the tonality. You could play with the rate of the random voltage generator, which is basically the main timing source and also main kind of randomized CV source. Changing that will also change the speed of the frequency, what's it called? The sequencer programmer. Another thing that you could do is open up the divide by n, so that you've got either less or more steps before it moves between the steps. So like changing the clock division could be a thing. I mean, everything's open, so you could touch everything, but I'm just thinking about the things that are spitting out and controlling more than one thing, so that you get a bit of a higher level idea of how you might be able to control something like this. So yeah, that's it.